News every 15 minutes, weather every 10, and sports twice an hour.
Newstalk, KGVO, AM 1290 and 101.5 FM.
You're listening to Montana Morning with Peter Christian.
$1 million bail for a Bozeman man accused of shooting his girlfriend to death. Good morning, everyone. It's Montana Morning. It's Thursday, March 10th, 2016. Rain falling in western Montana right now. Roads are bare and wet. We have 43 degrees in Missoula. Our newscast this morning, sponsored by Bulls Eyewear. They offer some of the lowest prices in town on contact lenses. See Lynette at Bulls Eyewear, 2910 South Reserve. The state's top story this morning. A Bozeman man is in the Gallatin County Jail on $1 million bail after allegedly shooting his girlfriend to death early Wednesday morning. Bozeman Police Detective Captain Andy Knight said 35-year-old Tobias Fagnano was charged with deliberate homicide.
We have a 911 call from a male this morning who had some information that a suspect had called him and said that he had just shot his girlfriend. Our officers went to the location where he described it was and did find a 37-year-old female who was deceased.
Knight said the suspect eventually turned himself in to authorities.
Officers did not have a suspect on scene at approximately 6:20. The suspect, whose name is Anthony Fagiano, showed up at the Law Justice Center and turned himself in. Our officers questioned him, and he confessed to killing his girlfriend.
Knight said an autopsy will be conducted to determine the exact nature and cause of death. The homicide investigation will determine if there were any previous instances of domestic abuse or if any alcohol or drugs might have been involved in the woman's death. Fagiano remains in the Gallatin County Jail on $1 million bond. His next court appearance is March 25th. A September trial date has been set for a Missoula man charged with killing his girlfriend and dumping her body in Paddy Canyon, southeast of the city. The Missoulian newspaper reports District Judge Karen Townsend scheduled the trial for Emmanuel Flores Gomez to start September 21st. Gomez is charged with deliberate homicide in the death of 26-year-old Charlie Ann Wyrick. Her body was found December 27th, a week after she was last seen. An autopsy found Wyrick had been stabbed and suffered a punctured lung. She also had a head injury and bruises on her body. The world's leading suicide intervention workshop is being held in Missoula this week, specifically for Missoula County Public School counselors, psychologists, and social workers. The training, Applied Suicide Intervention Skills, is for those individuals who provide suicide first aid. Carol Ewan with MCPS explains.
They provided us money to cover the cost of the suicide prevention kits, and then we are able to provide a 2-day training for all of our school counselors, social workers, school psychologists in both MCPS and in our feeder schools.
Ewan said since Montana consistently ranks near the top nationally in suicides, the training is especially appropriate.
Montana consistently ranks in the top 5 in the suicide completion rate per capita, and this last year we were number 1. And Missoula's had a really high rate of suicides, not just with adolescents, but we have a high rate of suicide in populations, men that are in their 60s.
The final all-day training session is being held today in the Missoula Federal Credit Union building on Brooks. Carbon County officials have released the name of a man who was killed in an officer-involved shooting in Joliet. Sheriff Josh McQuillan told the Billings Gazette 42-year-old Charles J.C. Graham died in Monday's shooting. He was living in Joliet, but had previously been a resident of the Red Lodge and Bozeman areas. Deputies responded to reported domestic disturbance in Joliet about 8 o'clock Monday night. About 20 minutes after officers arrived, McQuillan said Graham came out of the house and fired a shot at the deputies. The deputies returned fire, killing Graham. A sheriff's vehicle was struck by gunfire, but it was not clear who fired that shot. A ruling by the Montana Public Service Commission has been upheld by a Montana judge after Northwestern Energy contested the ruling. Public Service Commission spokesman Eric Sell explains.
Judge Menahan here in Helena affirmed a PSC order from last year that established higher compensation rates for small wind and solar generators in Montana. Northwestern Energy is required by federal law to purchase power from small generators.
Under a 1978 law known as the Public Utility Regulatory Policy Act, Northwestern Energy is required to pay those qualifying facilities a rate that's based on the cost to produce the energy. However, Judge Menahan ruled there were problems with that process.
The judge ruled that Northwestern used a flawed methodology in calculating those costs. It's kind of a wonky issue, but the PSC had issued that order. Northwestern challenged it, and Judge Menahan ended up affirming the PSC's ruling, thus preserving a higher compensation rate for these small wind and solar projects.
The original rate ruling by the Montana Public Service Commission came in May of last year. Officials in Roosevelt County have released the name of a 21-year-old Poplar man who was struck and killed by a hit-and-run driver while walking along a road north of Poplar. Undersheriff John Summers told the Billings Gazette Brady Lynn Smith died shortly after 9 o'clock on March 3rd. Summers says 2 other people were walking with Smith when he was struck from behind. They say he was hit by a Ford pickup that left the scene. Summers says the FBI is investigating. He was not aware of any arrests as yet. Montana residents who fly out of Missoula International Airport will soon have the opportunity to enroll in the Transportation Security Administration's popular TSA PreCheck application program. Deputy Director Brian Ellisted has more.
PreCheck, which allows you to get through the checkpoint a little bit easier, an expedited screening program. Rather than having to take off your shoes, you can leave on your shoes, a light jacket, a belt, your laptop in its case. Rather than having to pull out your 311 gels and liquids, you can leave it in your bag. So it just kind of makes it a lot easier to get through the checkpoint.
Ellisted said travelers can enroll inside the airport terminal from 8 a.m. till noon and 1 till 5 p.m. April 4th through the 8th.
Best bet is to sign up in advance, and it should only take 5 to 10 minutes of your time to come in and get fingerprinted and get interviewed. Can do walk-in only, but then you're taking a chance that there's nobody in line in front of you, so you may have to wait a little bit. There's a one-time fee of $85, but that'll be good for 5 years. You'll want to bring documentation proving your identity and citizenship.
To pre-enroll ahead of time, visit ident2go.com/MSO. Yellowstone National Park plans to start shipping many of its famous wild bison to slaughter today in response to concerns by the livestock industry over disease carried by the animals. The park's actions are dictated by a 2000 agreement with Montana that requires Yellowstone to control its bison herds. Meat from the slaughter will be distributed to American Indian tribes that traditionally subsist on bison. About 150 of the animals have been captured this winter, attempting to migrate into Montana. And finally, backers of Nevada rancher Cliven Bundy are promising a show of support outside a federal courthouse where he's facing charges related to an armed standoff against federal agents 2 years ago. Bundy's wife, Carol, and other family members and friends say an organized demonstration before today's court appearance aims to show they're keeping up their fight against the federal government. Our news talk time now, 6:12.
News Talk, KGVO.
Missoula's official weather station.
Mostly cloudy skies today with a few spotty sprinkles and showers. Daytime highs will top out in the upper 50s. Winds will be breezy with wind gusts up to 20 miles per hour. A rain-snow mix possible tonight. I'm meteorologist Brooke Foster for KECI 13.